welcome Simon Bilodeau-Gauthier, Dr. Simon Bilodeau-Gauthier. He's a forest engineer, ingénieur forestier, and biologist for la Direction de recherche forestière, ministère des ressources naturelles et des forêts du Québec.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thanks to the organizers of this conference. And yeah, so I'm from the Quebec Ministry of Natural Resources. I'll talk to you this afternoon about regeneration of hardwood species, both natural and artificial regeneration. And we'll look at different factors affecting this regeneration. Here I put harvest browsing and competition in the title. These will have different emphasis, let's say, in the presentation. And we'll be looking at, so I'll present to you three different experiments to highlight different aspects of regeneration. We'll be looking at a group selection and patch cutting experiment, then single tree selection, and finally irregular shelterwood. And I'll mostly talk to you about sugar maple and American beech, but we'll also touch on yellow birch and a bit on red oak too. So just to put things in context, so my main idea here is to look with you at the evolution of species composition in hardwood stands. And this is, I mean, if we think broadly about this question, it's influenced by different things, like local species pool, of course, what species do we have, and also the past and current management. As Laura said, silviculture matters. And also in this, in the case of beech, especially in the situation where we have beech bark disease, strongly affecting our stands. So the beech's capacity for vegetative reproduction is also an important factor in the evolution of the species composition, because as mature beeches are dying, they're producing suckers and sprouts. And whereas for sugar maple, well, its regeneration is impaired by several factors, such as cell acidification, deer browsing, and naturally the competition by beech. And I'm not even touching global change or pathogens or exotics here. So let's jump into the first experiments I want to present to you. This one is about group selection and patch cutting. This was established at the beginning of the 2000s. We have 71 sites, both patches and groups. In the case of patches, those are the blue squares on the map. I don't know if you see them really well. So the patches we have only one patch per site. But in the case of groups, there was a few of them for each of these red dots. And they span the whole west to east gradient in Quebec. And we have sites both in the hardwood forests and in the mixed woods. So we call them the sugar maple and yellow birch domain, or balsam fir and yellow birch. And like in Quebec, these types of harvest, they were introduced back then mainly to favor the regeneration of yellow birch, because people had noticed that single tree selection was not good enough. The openings were not wide enough for to promote light to the ground and promote yellow birch regeneration. And right after harvest, it looked like this. Soil scarification was done everywhere on each site. And this is a picture, I think, after 10 years, so it has regrown quite well. And if we look at a bit of data, this is after 15 years. We have the stockings for sugar maple on the left and yellow birch on the right. And the height of each bar is what's the proportion of our sites that were in a given stocking class. So what we see is that we had no site where there was no regeneration of these two species. We always had some, sometimes a bit low, but overall it spanned the whole range of success, let's say. And it worked a bit better for yellow birch than for sugar maple. And if we look at stem density now, we have here curves both for seedlings and for saplings. We see that for sugar maple, even after 15 years, we have not reached over 1,000 saplings per hectare, whereas for yellow birch, we have around 3,000. And so what the conclusion of this, after 15 years, we say that these types of harvest can successfully regenerate yellow birch, but then we need like wide enough openings and soil scarification. But we haven't produced monocultures of yellow birch anyway, so it's successful, but we still have some diversity in the openings. Now let's look at the second experiment. This one is single tree selection. Again, a large network of sites, even more than the previous ones. So we look at 159 hardwood stands. At each of these stands, actually, we have several sampling plots. Some are harvested and others were control plots. And this was established at the end of the 1990s. And they were harvested operationally according to the standards at the time. So a target residual basal area of 16 or more square meter per hectare. Per hectare is not appearing there, but it is. So between a quarter and a third of the basal area was removed. Here, these are the results. So these stands were measured right after harvest, and then after 5, 10, and 20 years. And these are the results of the species composition after over 20 years. We have the 4 bars for the 4 inventories. And the 3 panels represent different developmental stages. So on the left, we have the trees, the merchantable trees that were present before harvest. And in Quebec, we consider merchantable size to be over 9 centimeters DBH. In the middle, we have the recruit trees. So those were smaller than 9 centimeters before harvest, but they have reached that size over time. And the rightmost panel is for the saplings. And we consider saplings to have a DBH between 1 and 9 centimeters. I know, depending on where you're from, the definition can vary. And so the composition here is based on basal area, at least for the trees and the recruits. Here I made a mistake, but for the saplings, it's based on stem density. But anyway, I think the portrait would be almost the same. And what would we have to note here, what's important is that for the pre-established or pre-existing trees, there isn't much change in the species composition over time. Sugar maple was dominant before harvest, and it still is after 20 years. And the 2 main companion species, yellow birch and beech, are still mostly at the same level after 20 years. But where it differs over time is really with the recruitment into the merchantable sizes. Here we have a significant increase in balsam fir, yellow birch, no, not yellow birch, American beech, and a significant decrease in sugar maple in the basal area. And while regarding the saplings, there's some variation over time, and there's more non-commercial species among the saplings. But over 20 years, it hasn't been changing much. But what's important to note is that compared to the canopy trees, there the sugar maple is not dominant at all, not even right after harvest, so probably not before harvest too. And because we see that beech remains constant, or maintains a constant presence among the saplings, but increases among the recruits, this means also that we have recruitment from seedling to sapling in beech. I mean, I don't have the data for seedlings at these sites, but we can figure that this is also what is happening. And if we look a bit more into the sapling stage, here we have a figure showing the relation between the sapling density of sugar maple on the y-axis and after 20 years, and the sapling density of beech before harvest on the x-axis. So it shows that the more beech you have before harvest, the less regeneration you'll have of sugar maple over time. And the decrease is quite sharp. If we trace a line here for the threshold for satisfactory regeneration of sugar maple based on density diagrams, about 1,000 saplings per hectare, we see that only the left side of the figure reaches this number. And so we have been suggesting for a couple of years now that we should use the threshold of 800 beech saplings per hectare as an indication of having too much beech before harvest. And in some regions in Quebec where foresters are doing sapling controls, this is also the number they use. If they have more than 800 saplings per hectare, they deem it necessary and also efficient to do a mechanical control of the saplings. Because what we want to aim for is really the data points in the upper left corner of this figure. And now if we look at the colors of each data point, you see that the black ones, if you look at the legend in the top, well, the colors represent how many, what proportion of beech we had in the basal area before harvest. So the black dots are the ones where in the stands there was 15% or more beech among the basal area of merchantable trees. So this also means that if we want a successful regeneration in sugar maple, we need to aim for those stands that have just few beech or no beech at all. Otherwise, we do not reach our threshold of 1,000 saplings of maple per hectare. And then the third experiment, this one is undertaken in irregular shelter woods, and it's quite recent, established 2 years ago. The first part of this experiment is on the natural regeneration of both sugar maple and American beech. So we look at different factors affecting natural regeneration, so species, and then the origin of the individuals, because in this case, it's a smaller scale experiment, only 2 sites, but we look at individual stems and their microenvironment, and we measure them every year for a couple years. And so we look also at the origin. So on the left, you have a sugar maple seedling, and then in the middle, a beech stump sprout. And we also, I don't have a picture for that, but we also look at the saplings. And also we have a treatment where we cut all the saplings. Actually, we have 2 treatments. One, we cut all the beech saplings, and in the other, we cut also the maple saplings. Because the hypothesis is that, as in the picture on the right, we expect that stump sprouts, also from maple, would be more vigorous than the pre-established saplings. I've done a little, from the saplings that were cut, I looked at the tree rings, and the ages of these saplings range between 20 and 50-year-old. And so, having spent so much time under shade, suppressed, when the canopy is opened up through harvest, they do not respond really well. And the idea is to look whether either the saplings are cut or broken by harvest operations, do they respond better and are they more vigorous than the pre-established one? And can we beat the beech saplings with maple sprouts? That's question is up in the air. So I won't show you any preliminary data for that because it's a bit variable from year to year, and I don't have a full picture yet. But we'll look at another part of this experiment where we plant sugar maple and also red oak. Red oak is not present in these stands, but we want to test whether we can establish it to enrich the composition. So we've started this last summer planting these trees. We have 2 species. We plant them either in the harvest gaps or under the closed canopy where there was no harvest. And also because we know that there's many deer and moose in these stands, we've protected half of our planted seedlings with individual protectors. Those are plastic fence around a seedling. And so far, it's been mostly successful. I mean, survival rate is pretty good, over 80%, I would say, at least in the opened gaps. Under the canopy cover, there's a lot more mortality. But we run the whole gradient of response. So either really good growth, after a season and a half, one is almost as tall as I am, but other times we have mortality in the same summer where they were planted. We've had also a damage from an ice storm this winter, but the seedling is still alive and producing more leaves. And the protector also sometimes it's a hindrance because the competitors like raspberry or elderberry, or in this case black bindweed, grows into the protector, and then it's almost choking the planted seedling into this protector. So mixed results so far, but I'm optimistic about this plantation. And so, in conclusion, while we've seen that the composition of the hardwood forest is destined to change, especially if we look at the recruitment. So we know that in the future, we might not have the same forest we had in the past decades. So what are we going to do? We've been relying in the past on probably a set of factors that allowed good regeneration of sugar maple after partial harvest, but for different reasons, this isn't working as well anymore. So do we try to plant to supplement this failing natural regeneration? You know, I'm not saying we should do that everywhere all the time, but it's probably a good moment to start trying and see if it's even feasible before even thinking about how much it will cost. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bilodeau. Any questions for Simon? We've got time for a couple questions. Oops. Any questions for Simon?
Thanks, Simon, for the talk. I have done some plantation of hardwood, and this is in the Appalachian zone in Quebec. And I've been noticing also the effect of the snow on the ceilings that is bending the ceilings very badly, and they're making like an elbow. And many of them have their elbow shaped
Yeah.
kind of. Have you seen that kind of effect? And is it something that it's becoming more frequent? What is your thinking about it?
Well, so far, no, we haven't observed this. I think the damage we've seen is mostly because of the ice storm. This was sometimes in February or March, but it was an episodic event. Maybe we had winters where snowfall was constant and not too drastic, so there wasn't this physical, mechanical pressure on the ceilings. But we know with climate change, probably that the winters will be changing and the pattern of snowfall also will be changing. So I don't know, yeah, maybe this will be a question for later.
My question is, in your example of the single tree selection trial study, was there, you were giving data on regeneration and recruitment over 20 years.
Yep.
Was there no intervention in that 20-year period? So, for example, like I noticed there was a fair amount of yellow birch initially at 5 years, and that declined over that 20-year period.
Yep.
Was there no cutting cycle
No,
in 20 years?
Not at all.
So my secondary question, just asking you,
Yep.
do you think if the frequency of the cutting cycle was shorter, so you kept that basal area and that canopy closure lower, like continuously, would you get more yellow birch success? Because if I look at that graph, the yellow birch is going to a narrow line from 5 years to 20 years. If you got in there at a shorter cutting cycle and cut it back to 16 again, would you maintain the yellow birch?
Well, I would say that based on based on the literature and mostly based on our other experience with yellow birch regeneration, the issue is not really the like this residual basal area you have, but the size of the openings. So in these single tree selection harvests, the basal area was homogeneously removed, as much as possible. But yellow birch requires larger openings and scarification. There was no scarification in these single tree selections.
Thank you very much, Simon. As a token of appreciation for your contribution, please accept this.